Life here on England's sunny south coast looks like it's gradually returning to normal. But one of the hidden problems of lockdown is starting to make itself felt. During the peak of the pandemic in March, the government told councils in England that they needed to provide accommodation for rough sleepers and the vulnerable homeless. The government gave £3.2 million to help pay for it, a unique chance to tackle homelessness. But the pandemic has also made people lose their homes, and not everyone has had the help that they need.
Because I was actually homeless, living just over there and catching my dinner just there.
Andrew was one of more than 1 million people working in hospitality whose job was affected by lockdown. He's been training up to learn chef skills.
I was living and working in a pub at the time. Pub obviously had to shut during coronavirus. Obviously losing business and things like that. Obviously it sort of went downhill for them. So I think they couldn't afford to have me living there during coronavirus. I've never thought I'd be in that situation, never. But then it happened, and it's obviously a big shock to my life.
What was it like? How did it make you feel?
The worst thing was, it was the sleeping. Obviously I couldn't sleep, obviously knowing that I wasn't safe. I wasn't behind locked windows and doors. I was in a zipped up tent that someone could come up and sort of cut the side of the tent, which was scary.
Andrew spent 3 months living in a tent by the beach. He approached his local council for help, but was told he was not a priority.
I must have said 10 times that I am homeless, sleeping in a tent. Can I get some help? And they sort of, oh, we can't help you.
Andrew has been given temporary accommodation by the charity Stone Pillow after his GP referred him to an advocacy worker. Now Arran Council have told BBC Newsnight that they have been able to facilitate alternative accommodation for him.
Yes, since between April and June we've had 34 new people present to us at Stone Pillow or been referred to us, and that's a significant increase on previous years. I think it's very much around those people who probably were hidden homeless, who've actually come to see us, where ordinarily they probably would have just been sleeping on people's floors, sofa surfing in their cars or wherever.
The government estimates that it reached 90% of rough sleepers known to councils with its Everyone In scheme to house the homeless, a move that was welcomed by charities.
Well, we've already seen what can be done with political will. You know, we did see the amazing effort to get rough sleepers off the streets at the beginning of lockdown, all credit where it's due. With political will, the government can accommodate the people who are now at risk of homelessness.
But last month, the government updated their guidance to councils in England about who should be considered a priority for accommodation.
The new guidance is to clarify what councils should be doing about people who are former rough sleepers, and it makes clear that people who are extremely clinically vulnerable should be accommodated. I mean, the problem with that is it could easily be interpreted as a pretty high bar. And what we're seeing at shelter from people coming to us for help, a lot of people, is that they're not reaching that threshold, or indeed for other reasons, councils are refusing to accommodate them.
One of those helped by shelter is 20-year-old Yusuf, who is doing an internship in New York to complement his degree. When the pandemic hit and he had to return to London, he was studying international politics and hoping it would set him up for a good career. But because of the pandemic, he had to leave the family home when he developed a cough. That night, Yusuf contacted his local council, Westminster, to try and get some help. Yusuf is asthmatic, and the threat of coronavirus was making him increasingly worried about his health. When you approached Westminster Council for help, what did you tell them?
I let them know that I have coronavirus symptoms. I had a sore throat. As soon as the person on the other side of the phone heard this, he told me, there's nothing I can do for you. This was a Friday night, and I told him, you know, that the week is coming ahead. If you can't do anything for me, who is? And he told me, I told him, where do you expect me to sleep? And he said, you can go and sleep in a police station.
Westminster deny Yusuf's claims. A spokesperson for Westminster City Council said,
Mr Babaka does not have a priority need according to the national legislation, and therefore does not meet the criteria for emergency temporary accommodation. We would never advise anyone to sleep in a police station.
A few weeks after contacting Westminster Council, they set him up with a housing plan and a caseworker. The council say the plan sets out reasonable steps for Yusuf to help him find accommodation. But as yet, Yusuf still has nowhere to sleep.
Every day I've had to find new places to live. Sometimes, you know, the worst will come to worst and I'd be forced to sleep in, you know, a park or like under a bridge or somewhere where I wouldn't think I'd be sleeping in a million years.
Shelter are helping Yusuf to challenge Westminster Council's decision because they consider he should have been given priority need. Shelter say that for people like Yusuf and other homeless people, the pandemic is still a concern when it comes to their health.
I'm really worried, particularly if we get local flare-ups of the pandemic in areas where local authorities either won't or can't accommodate people who are presenting as homeless. The evictions ban is lifting on the 23rd of August. People are going to be homeless because of that. We've got 1.7 million renters expecting to lose their jobs in the next 2 or 3 months.
You're in your last year at uni.
Right.
What's going to happen with that?
Even if I could go back to uni, like, I can't sit in a lecture hall with, you know, dirt under my fingernails and my hair not that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's about my physical well-being as well as my mental and my health, and it doesn't look like something that's going to happen this year, unfortunately.
Now that Andrew's got the help that he needed, he feels he can look to the future once again.
Looking forward in life, I don't want to be looking back on what I've just gone through. I want to look forward. I want a house. I want my daughter to come around and visit me and things like that.
As most of us return to a normal life, the government says they've made it clear council should continue to support vulnerable people and those moving on from emergency accommodation. But yet charities continue to be concerned of what the future holds for the homeless.